Welcome back. This is lesson number 2 on the story sequence chart from IEW, and we are doing the Ugly Duckling. If you haven't already done the first video in this series where we filled out the first section of our chart, then go back and do that first. But if you've already filled that out and written your first paragraph, then you are ready to move on to the second part of our chart and talk about the next part of our story. So we learned last time that using the story sequence chart, we can retell any story, both short or long, in writing 3 paragraphs. And the important thing to know is that each paragraph has a job. Also, in order to fill out the information for our keyword outline for the paragraph, we are going to ask ourselves questions about the story instead of taking keywords from every line like we had done in units 1 and 2. So, moving on with the Ugly Duckling, last time we did our first paragraph, and the job of that one is to talk about the characters, the setting of the story, and set up the story by giving a little background information. Now we're ready to go on to our outline for paragraph 2. And in the story sequence chart, paragraph 2's job is to explain the conflict or the problem of the story. And we all know that a story would be pretty boring if there wasn't some type of conflict or problem. Otherwise, there would be nothing to fix, and that's what good stories do. So we are going to talk a little bit about it using the questions. The question mostly, what? What does the main character want or need? And then what did they do or say? And remember, the questions are to get us thinking, but we don't have to line them up or use them in a specific order. They're just to get our brain juices flowing. So in this story, what was happening next? What was the problem? Well, let's think about kind of what happened next and go from there. So we had finished up our last paragraph by saying that the egg with the ugly duckling popped open, and out came this ugly gray duckling. And so initially the mother duck was shocked, right? She was shocked. She had these 5 beautiful yellow chicks, and now she was shocked to see this ugly duckling. So for our keywords, let's do right here by the Roman numeral number 2, which shows us that we're on to our second paragraph. Let's write mother. And she was really shocked, not in a good way. Shocked. And I'm going to do these little eyes to see. She was really shocked to see this ugly duckling, and the yellow fluffy ducklings immediately began to laugh and tease and just really be unkind to the ugly duckling. So for our keywords, we can go ahead and write 2 here, and the ducklings, let's say they laughed. Well, let's say ducklings first. Ducklings. And they laughed and teased the poor ugly duckling. So the mother duckling was trying to recover from her shock and move things along like good mothers do. And so she gathered the ducklings together and said, okay, let's go all together to the pond for your first swim. So on this one, let's make our keywords. Let's have them say, let's go. I'm just going to do kind of an arrow to the pond in order for them all to have their first swim. And from that point on, it really was the beginning of a hard life for the poor ugly duckling. Life really was not easy for this little duckling. So for our keywords, let's go ahead and say that life, and we're gonna do a little trick I like to use a lot. We'll write easy, but it was not easy, so we'll circle that and put a thing. So life was not easy for the ugly duckling. And you can see here too that while these questions, the what do they want me do or say, well, they're helping me to think. I'm not worried about answering them in a specific order because I'm doing that by just following the sequence of the story, which I think is kind of an easier way to think about it. You are still just using keywords to rewrite the sequence of the story, but in this time, focusing on what the problem is. So life was not easy for our little ugly duckling. We can elaborate on that. So he was alone. He was constantly laughed at. What else was hard for him? He was called names. And really, a lot of the time, he was just simply told to go away, right? So, poor little duckling. So finally, as our dear little duckling gets older, he decided that it really, in the end, when he was old enough that he wanted to leave, that it would be better to be on his own than endure the constant abuse that was his current life. So when he was old enough, he went ahead and left the pond. So let's think of some keywords. Let's go with number 6. This will be our last one. When he was old enough to fly, he decided that it really would be better, so I'm going to do kind of a plus sign, it would really be better to be alone than to continue with his current situation. So he went ahead and flew away and left the pond. And we're out of words, so I'm just going to do this little squiggly signs to symbolize water. So you can go ahead and follow this portion and write it out on notebook paper exactly like I did, or if you have some things that you think are important to the story, then you can omit some of mine. They don't have to be the same, but it's hopefully showing you that this doesn't have to be super complicated. In this section, we've simply said what's happening to the duckling, what some of his problems are, and he's trying to fix it, what he did by leaving, and that's it. So now that we've done this section, you can go ahead and write your paragraph. And once you've done that, then come back to our third and final lesson where we will wrap the whole thing up in our concluding paragraph. Bye-bye.